Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my booktube channel, Life Worth Reading. Today I'm filming my mid-year book tag. Let me tell you something, it is not the mid-year. I can tell you that much. It is August. I am very late to this tag because May and June were not very good reading months for me. Actually, I just uploaded May, June, and July wrap-up on my channel if you want to go check it out. But yeah, those 2 months in particular were not very good for me. And so when June rolled around, I felt like the books that I had read so far were not interesting enough for me to do a whole freakout tag about it. And so because of that, I waited until July because maybe July would be a little bit better. And it was. But now we're in August and it's like, if I don't film this now, I never will because yeah, it's very late. So enjoy the last mid-year book tag you'll probably see because everyone has done theirs already and those are my favorite videos to watch every single year. And I wanted to make sure that I did it as well. But yeah, it's very late, but without further ado, let's just get started. The first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far this year? And obviously, like all the other people, I can't just name one book, and so I will give you 5. But I think my favorite book that I've read so far this year is definitely Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro. This book was longlisted for the International Booker Prize, and I love following the International Booker Prize and the Booker Prize each year that it happens. And I love reading the books that are on the long list and the short list and etc. And this book, I am so glad that I read this book. It is by an Argentinian author, Claudia Pinheiro, and it's about our main character, Elena, whose daughter just died, apparently by suicide. She was found hung in the church bell tower, and Elena does not believe it was a suicide. She believes it was a murder, but no one else believes her. And so she is on this mission to figure out what happened to her daughter and to try to get people interested in her story because no one is. But the catch is that Elena very unfortunately suffers from a rare and advanced form of Parkinson's, and so she has really a huge trouble just moving around, just using her body. And it's about this woman that is very severely disabled, trying to figure out what happened to her daughter when no one else around her helps her. And it's written in a very interesting form. It is written like pill by pill that she takes for her Parkinson's, and so she takes a pill and she is dependent on it and she's able to move for a little bit, and then the next pill rolls around. And it has very interesting themes from abortion to disabilities to mother-daughter relationships and how tricky they can be, because let me tell you, Elena and Rita are not very likable people. They have a very sometimes dysfunctional relationship, but you can tell just how much Elena loved her daughter and how much she's willing to sacrifice in order to try and figure out what happened to her. This was definitely the best book that I read in 2022 so far. If you haven't read it, you need to, because it is such a unique book and the writing is so interesting. It is just incredible. Of course, I will not go as deeply into the other ones, but the other one that I have is Hola Papi by John Paul Brommer. The long title is Hola Papi, How to Come Out in a Walmart Parking Lot and Other Stories, and it's a collection of essays about John Paul Brommer, and he has this column of advice that people can ask questions for, and so he picks a few questions and he answers them using his life stories and his experiences, and it's very interesting. It's about sexuality, it's about race, it's about identity, and John Paul Brommer has an ability to make me laugh and also to kind of make me want to cry because some parts were very sad. But it's an incredible memoir collection of essays that I highly recommend. It is very good. Then we have, of course, another memoir, Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zana. There is nothing that I have to say about this book that other people haven't said already. It's incredible, beautiful writing. I didn't cry because it's very hard for me to cry in a book, but it was the closest I think I got to crying. Then we have Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. This is a book that I read in July. I've been waiting to read this book for the longest time and it did not disappoint. I give this book 5 stars. Very complex for such a short book. Intergenerational trauma. We love to see it. It's a beautiful story. And finally, a book that I will mention a lot in this video, Finlay Donovan is Killing It. It wasn't a 5-star for me, but it was one of the most fun books that I read this year. It was a very strong 4-star that I really loved, and I think that is definitely worth the hype. The next question is the best sequel you read so far this year. Speaking of Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead by Al Casamano, the second book in this trilogy, is the only sequel that I've read so far this year, and let me tell you, I did not like it a lot. If Finlay Donovan is Killing It, the first book was a very strong 4-star that I really enjoyed. The sequel was very meh, in my opinion. It did not have the same charm. The plot was... it does not compete where it does not compare, you know? So I'm kind of worried about the last one that is coming out in 2023, but it's the only sequel that I've read, so I had to mention it, but it wasn't a good one. Third question, a new release that you want to read but haven't yet. Let's talk about it. I won't go deeply into any of them because I don't know what they're about, but we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sulim Tan. Obviously, Book Lovers by Emily Herron because I love People We Meet on Vacation, but I've been kind of dreading reading that one because I don't think I'll like it very much, but I still want to read it. Then Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, a sequel that I've been dying to read. Even though the longer it passes, the less I forget about the first one, Black Sun, but I'm trying my best. And it kind of... why am I a tribute right now? Cue the Hunger Games whistle. Then we have People Person by Candace Carter-Williams. This is the author that wrote Queenie, a book that I definitely loved. And I can't wait to read this other book. I can't remember right now what it is about. I think it's just a contemporary. I love her contemporary, so I'm giving this one a go. The fourth question, an anticipated release for the later half of this year. Since I'm doing this in August, some of them may have come out already, but here are a list of new releases that I'm looking out for. Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, obviously. Babel by R.F. Kuang, obviously. The Sunbury Trials by Aidan Thomas. A Scatter of Light by Melinda Lowe. I didn't love The Last Night at Telegraph Club, but I'm giving this one a go. And I think it's going to be a lot better for me, personally. Bloodmarked by Tracy Dion. And A Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I've never read from Alice Feeney before, but I'm really on my thriller shit at the moment. So any of them are welcomed and any new ones are welcome. So excited for that one. Question number 5, most disappointing book of the year so far. There have been so many. Listen, this has been the year of like 3-star reads, which I'm okay with because, as I mentioned, like I'm trying to read as many different books as I can to really try to nail down my taste. So anything that sounds good to me and appealing, I'll read. And then if I don't like it, that just means that I'm that much closer to figuring out my actual taste. So it's fine by me, but there have been some disappointing books this year, let me tell you. First, Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Everyone loves this book. I don't really get it. I thought it tried too hard to be sad. It was interesting, but it was just one of those books that was trying to make you cry, and I don't like when the sadness in a book is like artificial and actually trying to make me cry. So I gave it 3 stars. I still liked it, but it was a disappointing read. The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a book that I actively did not like. It was very disappointing. I don't get the hype for it. I did not like it. Malibu Rising by Tara Jenkins Reid. I loved Seven Husbands, but I DNF'd Malibu Rising. I thought it was boring. I thought it was a snooze fest, and it's another one that I don't get the hype for. I was very disappointed. Then we have King of Stars by Leigh Bardugo. Nope. And then we have The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, which is a book that I've recently read that I thought was very disappointing. Also trying very hard to make you cry. Very repetitive. Not for me. Then we have A Biggest Surprise, and one of them is for sure Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro. I never thought that I would love it that much. I thought the premise was super interesting, but I didn't expect the writing and the story to capture my attention so intensely and for it to be a book that I remember so vividly to this day. Like, I read it in April, I think, and it was just the best book that I've read so far this year. It was just incredible, and I did not expect it. Then I also want to mention Book of Essie by Megan McLean Weir, which was a book that I picked up very randomly from my library. I had never heard of it, and I was such a surprise because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was one of the most original premises for a book and one of the most original books that I've read recently. And so major points for that, even though there were some maybe problematic aspects and some things that I didn't really like. I love the character work and it was just so unique. I was very impressed by it. The 7th question is favorite new author, either debut or new to me. One of them is Jacqueline Woodson for sure. I loved the writing of this book. The other one probably Francesca Chiuasi, even though it is not a new author to me because I read Butter Honey Pig Bread last year, but I reread it this year, and I always want to shout out Francesca Chiuasi. She was a debut author when she wrote Butter Honey Pig Bread. I'm still waiting on her next titles because I will be reading them. It was an incredible book. She's one of the best authors out there, so probably her and Jacqueline Woodson for sure. Then the next question is newest fictional crush. I don't get crushes a lot. I mean, I didn't like King of Scars, but I still love Nikolai, even though I thought he was so much more charming in the original Shadow and Bone trilogy. I think he lost some of his charm in this duology. But him and maybe Neja from the Poppy War. I love an asshole. I love a rich asshole. But I don't get crushes, so those are the only two that mildly came to mind, but I don't usually get crushes. Then the next question is favorite new character, and that's probably Finlay Donovan. I really loved her character. She was very fun to read about and very fun to follow, so probably her. Then the 10th question is a book that made you cry. Like I mentioned, I don't cry at books a lot. Rarely even. The only book that I came close to was Crying in H Mark. Crying in H Mark by Michelle Zauner, and Elena Knows was also very sad. And It Tastes Like War by Grace M. Cho. There's something about a sad memoir and diseases and family that just gets to me, but I haven't like physically cried. Then the 11th question is a book that made you happy. Now, hear me out. Obviously, Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Al Casamano, of course, but I'm really on my mystery and thriller shit at the moment, and those books just weirdly make me happy, especially like stupid, silly thrillers. As one of them I'll mention is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. This book was just stupid, but I loved it. They Never Learned. Kind of stupid, but I loved it. So happy for you. Very stupid, but I really enjoyed it. And so I'm just really on my silly thriller shit at the moment. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife was also very fun. So if you have any recommendations based on this one, please do give it to me because I'm really on that track right now. Then the 12th question is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. The most beautiful book that I've bought so far this year is definitely Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. This book is gorgeous. It is so beautiful. I really love it. I'm actually very close to finishing it. I took this book on vacation with me and then I just didn't finish it. I have like maybe 40 pages left, so I really need to finish it, but it's definitely the most beautiful book that I've bought. The 13th question is the question that gets everyone screaming, crying, throwing up, etc. And it is, what books do you still need to read by the end of the year? Bessies, there's too many books. Like, the fact that I won't read every single book that I want to read before I die gets me anxious and upset every single day. So thinking about all the books that I still need to read this year, there's so many. Like, books on my shelves, book from the library, new releases, old books that I still haven't read. It's too much for my little brain. I am overwhelmed. There's way too many to count on. Just like, look at this. Look at just this pile right here. These are all books that I need to read. So this question is overwhelming me. Let's move on. Then we also have some like YouTube creator questions, and one of them is, what is your favorite video that you filmed so far this year? One of them is definitely early 2022, my mid-month wrap-up, but I'm cutting my own hair and slowly losing my mind. I just decided to pick up my camera, cut my hair, and talk about the books that I read. and I think it was a little bit of an iconic video of mine. So if you want to go watch that, you definitely should. Another one that received way less hype and was a little bit underrated was tarot book recommendations. I really love using my tarot deck for a lot of stuff, and I thought it was so fun to use it for book recommendations. So if you're interested in seeing the type of books that I recommend for each card, do go watch that. And then we have the question, favorite creators. There are so many. I'm literally going to leave every single one in my description because I can't even mention them. Most of them are fairly hyped and known booktubers, but I want to also shout out some friends of mine like Tara, Jess from Verity Books, Bia from The Bookkeeper, even though she hasn't put any videos out recently, so you can go bully her about that. Also Kitty from Spicy Cats, Nerdy Nat Reads, It's Myra. There's just way too many. I'll put the rest of them in the description below because yeah, there's way too many people that I love on here, and thank God for that, because if I didn't love my community, what would I be doing here? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed my not so mid-year freak out tag, book tag, whatever you want to call it. Let me know some answers to these questions if you haven't filmed this video yourself, because if you have filmed it, I have probably watched it. But let me know which one was your favorite book of this year so far and the worst book that you've read so far this year. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.